All right, let's give this another 15-20 seconds and then we will start. All right, welcome everyone. Good morning, noon, or evening, depending on where you are joining us from. I'm Dr. Bushra Anjum, and in my day job, I'm the Director of Data Science at the San Francisco-based startup Doximity, now a public company. As a volunteer, I am the Standing Committee's Chair for ACM Women and also the host for this ACM Women Celebrating Technology Leaders series. The series is designed to demystify careers in the tech industry, especially for women. We discuss career options, opportunities, and challenges. In each episode, we invite women leaders who have been successfully architecting their careers in computing. Today, our panel consists of senior technologists who have devoted decades of their lives, either as full-time careers or as passionate volunteers, to creating and nurturing empowering communities for technical women. Together, we will celebrate their stories and learn from their experiences. Before talking to our panelists, a few logistical reminders. I will be facilitating the discussion for the first 45 minutes. Some of these questions are taken from those submitted by you at the time of registration. The final 15 minutes are for live Q&A with our panelists. You can put forth your questions by typing them into the Q&A window. You will see them at the bottom of the screen and submitting them. Feel free to write in and send your questions throughout the discussion. We will try to get to as many of those as we can, and other questions will be answered via email. Thank you for spending the next hour with us here today. We will make every effort to make it worth your time. So today we have with us Nidhi Gupta, who is the CEO and co-founder of CTO, Kathleen Fisher, VP of Engineering from OwnTrail, Rose Robinson, an executive tech consultant, and Farah Ali, VP of Technology Growth Strategy at Electronics Arts. Welcome, panelists. And I know I cannot do justice of introducing yourself fully, so I'll actually pass that responsibility on to you. So please tell us something about your background and how did your unique personal journey, interests, and career aspirations led you to where you are today? We can start with Nidhi.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. Really happy and glad to be here and amongst this amazing panel of women leaders. So Bushra referred to our background with decades of experience. So I'm definitely one of those. I have a couple of decades of experience, in chief technology officer roles and chief product officer roles. And as many of you on the panel, I've been the only woman as an engineer, woman as a manager, woman at the exec table. And I got to a point where I felt that I needed to do something. And I think after a ton of introspection, when I got to that point, I realized that pursuit of more is just relentless. I could have continued in, a larger org, larger role, more pay, more salary, but I felt like I'd arrived and I needed to do something to change the equation. And the equation being less than 9% of engineering exec roles are held by women. And it is my mission to change that. And that's the reason I founded CTO.org. And today we happen to be the largest private network of women and non-binary engineering leaders. Our goal is to help our leaders grow and thrive in their careers. And when they do, they in turn will inspire the next generation of women to enter the industry, stay in the industry, and aspire for these higher roles. So I'm glad to talk to you more about CTO.
Thank you so much, Nidhi. Kathleen?
Thank you, Bushra. My name is Kathleen Fisher, and I'm currently the VP of Engineering at OwnTrail, which is a community and platform that helps folks achieve their next milestones in life. And how I got here today, I have a background in computer science. As a student before college, I was kind of equally interested in languages and math and science. I didn't really lean one way or the other. So when I entered college, I considered linguistics, I considered math. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. And as a early student, I decided to major in French and to travel and be an exchange student, actually do summer semester abroad. After graduation, I wasn't really excited about the types of jobs I was getting. I was doing tech support and translation, but I wanted to have a broader pool of jobs to choose from, and I wanted to be able to move anywhere that I wanted to. So I went back to college and got a degree in computer science, which is how I ended up in that field. And I've worked through a lot of companies over the decades, which I'll talk about more in today's talk. So thanks for inviting me, Bushra.
Thank you, Kathleen. Really appreciate your time. Farah?
Sorry, I was thinking Rose would be next, so.
It's okay.
So I think, my background, what Kathleen said really resonated. I was really interested in reading and the languages, but also really into, science and math. I think the one thing that sort of tipped the scales for me was that I was an avid gamer growing up. And so I was just really comfortable, with the computer, behind the computer. And I think at some point during that time, probably, late middle school, early high school, I'd sort of thought that it would be fun if I could, do something where I just get to sit behind a computer all day and don't have to talk to people, that and pan out exactly as planned. But, that was the idea. And I think the interest in languages and the reading part was something I think was very deeply influenced by my parents. Both my parents were readers. My dad would always have a lot of books around the house. He was an engineer by profession. We really had no sort of, here, you can't read this or whatever. So I was kind of introduced to a very wide range of topics at a very young age. And I think all of that sort of helped. I kind of take, I think, my creative side into consideration within my, technology roles. And my background is computer science. I sort of had made that decision by the time I was in college. And some of it was, I loved STEM subjects, but the other was like, it was a process of elimination. I didn't want to be a doctor, and I didn't want to be, I knew what I didn't want to be. So that left very little in what I wanted to be. Since I graduated, I've had a career within technology. I started as an individual engineer at Microsoft and went on to management roles at Microsoft and eBay and Electronic Arts. Had a chance to do a startup, and also kind of very wide range of areas. So that's probably something I can share later and talk about to help motivate others.
Absolutely. And we are so glad you are in front of a camera talking to us right now. Rose, please.
Yes, thank you. And I'm incredibly honored to be just amongst the guests here. We got a chance to meet earlier, and so I'm really just ecstatic about this conversation. And I have to say that my background, where it's in mathematics and computer science, I went the route of software engineering. And I had an opportunity to do a lot of consulting. I had an opportunity to work in the telco space when it was communications at that time. And then also geospatial, the spatial industry, when mapping technologies was really just getting started. So I ended up spending about 15 years there, and then also moving into finding community that would help me grow in my field. And so I found Anita Borg's Sisters community, and I actually came on board as a full-time, really helping a lot of women in tech across the globe, but also myself. And it's a very rewarding to see other women succeed, and those that you've mentored, and really try to move the needle as much as possible. But With that, also with Anita Borg, I was also in I started with open source technologies, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But and then I went on to Commanded. Hopefully everyone knows about Commanded, Center for Minorities and People with Disabilities in IT. And that I got a chance to work with minorities and people with disabilities, and that hit home with me as well. So I have to tell you that opportunities in life steered me to where I am today, and I'm really excited to talk about that later on in our session.
Thank you so much, Rose. And I must share that I met Rose at the Richard Tapia Celebration of Diversity in Computing conference some 10 years ago. And Rose actually introduced me to some of the communities that I'm now a part of, and I have learned and grown a lot with that help. So on that front, Rose, let me just ask the follow-up question that how have communities or lack thereof played a part in your career progression when you were a student, when you were an early career professional?
So I didn't have, I graduated from a historically Black college and university. And so I saw so many of me in other majors. So it wasn't really unusual for me, but it was very different when I came into the corporate world. So it was very, very all men mostly. I got a chance to work on a lot of government projects, and so it was a lot of military and intelligence also. So having to try to find something, and I don't know how I ended up with Sisters, but I found Sisters just on a search, and they have been very instrumental on me trying to get promotions, how to deal with situations that are very uncomfortable. And so just having that email list was very important to me, and it helped me navigate through some very tricky times, but also gain my confidence that I really belonged in this field. And it's just been an amazing opportunity for me to join that community.
Thank you for sharing that.
Sure.
Farah, same question for you. Were there any communities you were a part of while being in college, early in your career?
I think for me, it was more that there was always a lack of communities. I really desperately wanted to be a part of communities where, there were more people like me. I think when I immigrated here to the US, for example, I didn't know a lot of, women from Pakistan, and, that was another, just South Asian in general. And so part of me founding Pakistani Women in Computing was the idea that, there just isn't a lot of communities for just support, or the kind of stuff Rose is talking about, right? You have a list of people with a shared history of some sort, a shared context, where you don't have to explain yourself every time from scratch. And that just is such an unburdening, and you can sort of jump into the thing that's, troubling you, or you can share an issue without that fear of judgment, and there's that safety in that too. So yeah, for me, it really was a lack of communities. I think the idea of a community sort of had been in the back of my mind for a long time, but for a very long time I was very junior in my career, and I was trying to get somewhere. And so it's also a lot of obviously time commitment if you're doing something on the side part-time, if you have a full-time job and family. And so that was the other thing, is that I wish that I'd had a better network early on, and I could have started some of these things earlier than I did. I think a third area which did help is, I remember when I was at Microsoft, they had they call them DACs. They're kind of like employee resource groups, and they would have a wide range of these communities. It would be like, if you're interested in learning about investing, here is one. If you want to learn about real estate, here is one. There was one where, there was a bunch of us who really were into puzzle hunts, like in person, physically. And what I realized kind of more after the fact, like retrospectively, is that even joining some of those and meeting like-minded people, and doing activities outside of work that were interesting or sort of stimulating, helped a lot in terms of building confidence and networking. You met somebody and it was a more organic relationship, and then maybe later on you could go to them for something work related. So I think don't underestimate the the existence of some of these communities, which are not really maybe tech communities or directly work related, but just kind of keeping your network more open and more kind of diverse than what you'd be surrounded with.
Keeping your network more open and diverse. Fantastic advice. Kathleen, how about your journey?
I would say that in university, there either weren't communities or they weren't very visible, because I didn't really find anything at that time. And this was in the kind of early to middle 1990s. So at that point in the computer science department, there weren't a lot of women. You kind of knew the other women on a at least nodding basis, because you kind of kept seeing the same faces in classes. But it just kind of self-formed some study groups, and had the same study group basically through that degree. When I moved to the Seattle area after college in my early career, I also didn't really, I think the company I first worked at in Seattle had one other woman developer, and she was kind of more towards the end of her career. So we hung out a little bit, but I did meet a lot of women in other like non-technical roles in the tech world, HR and designing. And through them, I did get involved in some communities, including at that time in the mid 90s, Digital Eve was a big one in the Seattle area, and they put in a lot of in-person networking events. So I met a lot of people through that. Until the last few, I feel like the last handful of years, I've started to see employee resource groups kind of come out of the DEI initiatives at companies I've been at. So the last consulting company I worked at did have it was called a Firma. It's in Bellevue, Washington, and they had a Women at a Firma group, and they would put on internal webinars and learning and that kind of things in the kind of towards the DEI space. So that was kind of new experience. And then, of course, I am a part of the Own Trail community, which I'll talk about more later, which is the company I work at now. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Kathleen. Nidhi, the same question. Any communities that were part of your journey as you were growing into your career? And then also we would love to know the story behind CTO, how the last 2 years have been. I know we started with diversity and then we pivoted towards CTO. So please. Sure.
Absolutely. So yeah. Very similar to Farah and Kathleen, I didn't belong to any communities. And I think it started way back when I was doing my undergrad. I was in an engineering school in India, and I think we were 4 women in a class of 70. We didn't even have a girls' bathroom in my college. We used to go to the men's bathroom. And same journey sort of continued when I came to the US as an immigrant for my master's, and then, so on and so forth. Over time, I realized that I really struggled and hurt with my go-it-alone approach, because you can lean on others and hopefully not make the same mistakes they've made before. And that sort of, that was sort of the genesis of the idea behind CTO. So when I was at Hired, I got invited to this intimate dinner of CTOs. And I guess I expected to walk into a room full of men because that's who I work with all the time. And to my utter shock and surprise, good surprise, I walked into a room full of 15 other women who were extremely accomplished. They were all VPEs, SVPs, CTOs. And I was like, oh my God, me having been in the industry for as long as I have, if I don't know of 15 other women, then how is the next generation of women supposed to get inspired? So that's when I went to seek data. And I came across several studies, and I came across one study by Gartner, which said that less than 9% of engineering exec roles are held by women. And so, that was the moment where I have an if not me, then who sort of a moment. And I quit my job to pursue something more meaningful. And I made my mission to make a dent in this gender gap as much as I possibly can. And we were previously called Diversity, so we started Diversity, and now we've rebranded to SheTO. So that's how SheTO came about.
Thank you. And I'm sure our audience would like to know more that who can participate or join the SheTO platform? What are some of the initiatives that are available for free, maybe for anyone? And then in addition to SheTO, are there any other communities that you would recommend our audience members have a look at?
Absolutely. So SheTO there's no membership, it's free. So the way we think about SheTO is sort of two concentric circles. If you are somebody who identifies as a woman or non-binary in functions of engineering, IT, project management, program management, you are more than welcome to apply to join. You can just go to sheto.org/join us. If you are, so you will get invited to, if you're an individual contributor, you will get invited to our open events. We typically do once a month, or our mentorship program. If you are on the management track, so you're an EM and above, engineering manager and above, then you also get to participate in in the Slack community, where you connect deeper with others, as well as some of the workshops and accelerator programs that we run. Pretty much everything is free because I intentionally incorporated us as a 501c3, and my goal is to help as many women as possible. So some of the accelerator programs and workshops are paid, so you can tap into your L&D budget, but you can definitely take advantage of all of the plethora of programming that we offer.
Fantastic. And some other communities that you may want to recommend?
Yes, absolutely. And there's so many great communities. So a few that come to mind is there's Girl Geek and Women in Product. So if you're in product, you could join Women in Product. Girl Geek does these dinners and conferences. There's also Lesbians Who Tech that focus a lot on conferences. So there's a ton of them out there. Find your tribe and go hang with them.
Find your tribe and go hang with them. Lovely advice. And talking about tribe, I know, Farah, that's a word that we use quite often when we were talking about Pakistani women in computing. Please, any advice that you have on some of the communities or support initiatives that our audience members, depending on where they are in their journey, can join in?
Yeah, so I think with PWIC, we do offer, similar to what Nidhi said, it's free. So there's a lot of programming. There's talks throughout the year. There are tech talks. There are talks on building a brand, building your self-confidence. We do this sort of digital fairs every year where it's like a virtual job fair. So for North America and Pakistan, where a lot of companies come and, list their openings with us. But what we do before that is we do a weekend of prep. So, you can sign up for one-on-one workshops with other engineers who can help you with, coding interviews. We have a workshop on resume and LinkedIn. How do you update it? Like really hands-on practical stuff that's going to help you. You don't have to be from Pakistan. You don't have to be a woman. Anybody can sort of participate and gain access to that stuff for free. So definitely, and all these past events and videos are on YouTube. So, and Bushra, maybe we can kind of share out the resources, but there's a lot of resources in prepping for interviews and getting yourself ready and building your brand. In addition, for senior women, there's a platform called Above Board, and it's an exclusive platform and a community that provides access to senior leadership opportunities. And so it's somebody that I advise. It's called Above Board. So that's something that, I think all women who are trying to kind of reach for these senior roles should go to, and they're always posting kind of VP and above type of roles. So it's really for people who are trying to make that jump to the executive levels. And then I think in addition to that, maybe your goal is to actually, kind of like how Rose was saying, or even what Nidhi was saying, is your goal is to support, right? You want to give back. You want to be the person to benefit these communities. And so there's tons of ways you can do that, right? You can obviously donate. There's scholarships that are, available through, Black Girls Code, Girls Who Code, and all of these other, Anita Borg, or all these organizations. There is, depending on where you're from, what part of the world, like for example, in Pakistan, there's a few, there's Code Girls in Karachi, there's, so that you can volunteer with. And I think, like, for example, one thing that I'm doing right now is I'm working with the National Curriculum Council in Pakistan to build the curriculum for K-12 for computer science. And so, just kind of thinking about how do you want to help at scale, right? And so being able to do things like that, that's going to help, be for in every public school in Pakistan. I mean, that's every one of us here can give back in those kind of ways as well, to seek out those opportunities. And there's some fantastic organizations where your dollar goes a long way, where you can help either locally or globally. So those are kind of the ones that come to mind.
Thank you for sharing that. And for our audience members, all the suggestions that our panelists are sharing, we will be creating a blog post out of them and share them on our social media channels shortly. I'll share the links of our channels in the chat for you to keep an eye on. And continuing the same discussion, Kathleen, any communities that you would recommend people to join in?
Sure. In addition, I mentioned Own Trail, where I work currently and am a member of. That is open to anyone. You can freely create a trail. You can ask for help. You can participate in conversations. We have kind of a TED Talk-like series called Trail Talks, which you can attend live and view the old ones on our site that have been recorded. Other communities that I participate in now, or one that I do, is alpha.com, which is geared towards career development and job-seeking women. It's more than just a job site, though. There is a lot of discussion on it, a lot of interesting office hours type community things where they bring someone in to do Q&As from the community. An organization I just recently learned about that seems very cool is called OSTEM, which stands for Out in STEM, and it's geared towards students and early career professionals in the LGBTQ+ community who are in STEM fields or working towards STEM degrees. They have a lot of student chapters throughout the country, but also professional ones as well, and offer some career development type programming.
What a treasure trove of information here. I remember I was scanning through the registration list yesterday as I go through all the questions that the audience have submitted. And one registrant, I'm not sure if she's online right now or not, but she explicitly asked that, can we please have guidance on non-academic communities? And I think her question is getting answered here plenty. Rose, before I come to you with the same question, I would like to share with my audience that with Rose's permission, Rose has been a breast cancer survivor here. And I know that she has also suffered loss of loved ones during COVID. And being part of support communities has helped her in her journey. So Rose, I would love for you to share something about your personal experience with our audience members, and then of course, some of the communities that you would recommend them checking out.
Absolutely, and thank you so much. It was a very trying time back in 2018, I believe. I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and I'm not that person, that goes and posts on social media, and I wanted to really just be private about it. But I also knew that there was a lot of work that I still needed to do while being at Anita Board. And so Black Women in Computing, I met with just my inner circle. It was just 4 of us, and we're the founding committee of Black Women in Computing. We had a Zoom. I told them that I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And we all cried, and they said, Rose, let us just get back to you in a week, and on Friday. This was a Sunday, and I said, and we'll see what we can do. So that on that Friday, they were just like, boom, 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 boom. Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna let the sisters and all of the other affinity communities know. And I know that you're private about it, but Rose, you've helped so many of us. And you have to, and they really reminded me that the gratitude is really important for people that really want to help but don't know how to help. And so they really just reached out to everyone including all of the affinity communities, worldwide, local communities, and really had a plan. They said, look, we really want to support you, and here's how you can support Rose. So they got a mailbox open for me. I said I love letters, handwritten letters, and I also love spy novels. So I had a lot to read. And once I was up to it, I wrote every single person back that I received a handwritten letter for. And it was so comforting to know that you have support like that. And even when I wasn't going to be able to make it to that Grace Hopper, they made these small little note cards. And so I received probably amount of 1,500 plus little note cards that I just had a bag full, and I read every single day, whether I was going to treatment, whether I was getting ready before another surgery. It was the hardest time, but just to have that kind of support. And, we talk a lot about tech and how we can support on careers, but also we really have to support each other as a woman. We go through a lot. We are most likely the one who takes care of everybody in the family, but we also still have to get up and work. We have no days off. We are consistently always trying to be the example and be the one when we are the only one at work. So community is strong, and I'm so happy about just having that reach, that really incredible short reach that I have. And you have us here. And I've learned a lot about, I think I'm going to join She Too, because that's where I am right now. I'm also a co-founder, and I am building our product. And as the CTO of the founding startup, it's so exciting right now. And I have a lot to thank for my community with that, because mentally, it's really hard to deal with everything that you have to. And then when COVID hit, there were so many people in my community, especially in my family, that I lost. After 17, I just stopped counting. So we had to do something. So now is the time. And I think you definitely want to reach out. All of the people here, some of the communities I would tell you about, and I mentioned earlier, is Anita Borg has Sisters, Black Women in Computing, Commanded. I'm also a Filipina. I was born in the Philippines, so Southeast Asian, yay, represent. And I'm part of Filipino Women in Computing as well, because, we are at the layers of intersectionality, if you will. And Commanded, and my older sister is blind. I have two nephews who has muscular dystrophy, and they're both wheelchair users. One is autistic. So I bring a lot of this work that I do and this perspective personally to the technology and the innovation that I'm trying to do and create the change that really has a sustaining impact. I also know that Black Computer is maybe hosting the last couple of years have been virtual, but Black Computer is also, if you're at a different level and you're at the very executive level, there's also Black women on boards. There's a huge initiative to make sure that we have voices there, right? There's a lot of initiatives around just women, but also we're really just trying to help Black women as well. So I hope you take all of this information. I know we're so happy to pass along any information because we've experienced it, and there is no reason why the next generation of you should ever be alone. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Rose. I'm really grateful for you, both at a personal level, because you have been a friend and mentor to me as well, but also for your willingness to share your experience and guide the next generation along. Thank you. Wow, that got me a little emotional there. But thank you so much for honestly sharing your journey. You mentioned affinity groups. Farah, let me ask you. So we were talking about Pakistani women in computing. Oh, and for our audience members, when we say PWIC, we mean PWIC, Pakistani Women in Computing. And when we say commanded, it's you may have heard of it as, or seen it of it as CMD/IT. So those are the groups. Farah, I know we have discussed the role of community for, of course, professional support and personal growth, but I would like to have your input on the community support to establish yourself being an immigrant. What are some of the unique needs and challenges there?
Yeah, I think, if you're moving countries, if you're kind of moving contexts, there's a lot of learning that has to happen, but there's also a lot of unlearning. And, I think that, maybe in another context, you can just kind of fully immerse yourself in your new career and really kind of, focus on that. You don't have the luxury of doing that when you're moving. And so again, support groups at that time would have been super helpful for me to just to know, like somebody who can cook the food that from back home, or somebody who's familiar, or somebody who I can share a story with about my childhood, or somebody that I can talk about sports with, that, like cricket is a sport that a lot of us in Southeast Asia understand and, resonates with us. And, we play different sports, we listen to different music, we grew up, not that it's completely alien, but like we have kind of, Rose mentioned intersectionality. There's a lot of that going on, and a lot of what is familiar is very different. And so just that sense of belonging is not there, right? And you're sort of like, it's a very lonely place, and you're trying to like figure out work situation. You're, in a water cooler conversation, everybody's talking about the football game from last night, and you're like trying your best to fit in, and you can't. And so it's very apparent to you that you don't fit in. And even though you may be killing it at work, by not having that support and integrating, well, that can undermine your self-confidence, and that, permeates into work. And so I think just having some support groups that help you feel more comfortable in your skin, help you figure out that you don't have to assimilate, you can integrate, and what's the difference. And I think a bunch of different things like that would have been very, very helpful. But, like Rose said it really well, like just because we went through it, like we don't want anybody else to go through it. And we want, people to learn from our experience and see how we can kind of pay it forward. And so, with PWIC, again, it was, the idea was like, we have all of these women, they're coming from all of these different contexts. Some are, born here, some aren't. But, every conversation that I've had with different people, like some, in a chapter in Pakistan, some in a chapter in Europe, some in a chapter in North America, there's underlying threads of, call them issues or call them circumstances, they're very similar that resonate. And I'm sure like if Rose and I and Nidhi and I and Kathleen and I started talking, we would find those threads, right? And so it's just something very comforting about having that. And, it's the same as you walk into a room at work and you're always the one, and you always have to like, fly the flag of being the one and be the perfect example of being the one. It's a lot, right? It's like a million tiny paper cuts every day that sort of exhaust you and you don't really realize it. So yeah, I think just being able to integrate well, having support, like when you're going through a family crisis or a health crisis or any other personal crisis, it's important. It's important for your mental health. And I think what I love about our current work environment is that that's such an open area of conversation. Everybody recognizes the importance of mental health and recognizes the support of that. So while we talk about community, I think understanding what communities are available that are just useful for your mental health and not just for work or other things is very important. And so, being able to share that, especially amongst young people who've gone through this couple of years of COVID in a very different context and having to start work remotely or be completely remote, that's very different. I mean, I think what helped me a lot as an immigrant integrating is I used to go into an office. There were people of all experience levels willing to share, willing to help, very supportive. And you sort of emulated and learned by example, right? I don't think I would have learned as much as I did if I didn't get to interact with all those people in person. And I see a whole generation of kids who are not really getting that. And that's kind of, I don't know what that means for them in terms of their growth and their, not just career growth, but their, personal growth as well. So yeah, that's just kind of just some random thoughts around immigration experience.
Not random at all. And I'm an immigrant as well. And sometimes it's really, the smallest things becomes difficult. For example, when I came here, I'll admit that I didn't know that Star Wars and Star Trek are two different franchises. And I actually offended a few people when I mixed some characters there. So even just the regular things that just comes naturally to people, which can make you part of a conversation or exclude you from a conversation, they're a little bit of a learning curve there in order to integrate you in those conversations. Thank you, Farah, for sharing that. Kathleen, let me come to you, and especially I would like to talk more about OwnTrail. We were chatting earlier, and you said that you became a user, like you joined OwnTrail because you were disenchanted by social media in general. And that group kind of sounded like something that you can join. And then, of course, you joined the team, and now you are the VP. So how did that journey play out?
Yeah, well, as you said, I didn't really find a space in kind of the social media world that felt very comfortable to me, mostly because of the just kind of inauthenticity of the way people presented themselves or the way you felt you had to present yourself. And so I had been following OwnTrail because I knew one of the co-founders, Rebecca Bastian, who has been a speaker in this series before. And the previous VP of engineering was my former business partner. So I was aware of the company and kind of following what they were doing. And I joined the community pretty early on. And, the community there is just, it's very authentic, and the way people share their experiences is very real. And OwnTrail also, the trail part of it is literally like a visual representation of your journey through life, basically. And it encompasses both your work life and your personal life, and you can share as much as you want. And the trail has milestones on it. And one of the features, after I joined the company, one of the features we built is called Help Beacons. And basically, you can add this beacon on a milestone on your trail where you're looking for support, and the community can come and help you. So, sometimes it's a career pivot. People maybe looking to get into a data science field who previously been, a traditional software engineer, or sometimes it's like I'm setting up a home recording studio and I need help doing this. It's like the array of things that people ask for help with is quite broad. But the community we've built so far has just been so great, and it just doesn't have a lot of the negativity that I felt around other media sites where they just did not bring any joy to my life. So I've since left them. Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of us can relate that a lot of social media does
not
bring any
joy but
does not bring any joy to our
does
lives.
Not spark joy.
So for those in the audience or might be watching this video later on, are there any requirements to joining the community? Can they just sign up today?
Yes, no, not at all. We did start out as focused as a women-focused site. So you will find that a lot of our members are women, but we are open to all genders and all stage of career or anything, students. Our demographic, like most of our members tend to be more like mid-career adults, a lot of them looking to maybe make a career pivot or working on a next milestone, but we're definitely open to anyone. It is free to create an account. The trail creator is in our free tier and asking for help beacons conversations. We do have a paid membership option, and behind that is more making direct connections and private messaging and that kind of stuff. So, but yeah, anyone can join.
Thank you for sharing that. And I just shared the links of some of the communities and initiatives we have been talking about. And I said there will be a follow-up blog post as well that will cover that in a more comprehensive manner. I would also like to weave in some of the audience questions. Jennifer, I'll not say the last name because I don't have explicit permission, but Jennifer said that she's looking for community and support as a single mom trying to get into the workforce after her doctorate. So, well, first of all, congratulations on your doctorate. If you have any specific questions for the panelists on that regard, you are very welcome to send me a note, and I'm sharing my contact information. It's a contact form that goes directly into my email, and we'll be happy to guide you there. But also on this series, the Celebrating Technology Leaders, we had a dedicated session on returnships, where how there are various communities that are supporting women who are either getting into the workforce after a longer break because of whatsoever reasons, and what are some of the things that they can do. So please do check out that session as well. You might find some guidance there really useful. And if you have any specific questions, Jennifer or anyone else, you're very welcome to reach out to us as well. All right. And then Tara, she said that she's looking forward to creating more resourceful community within the women in tech field. And she's currently part of a university. So Tara, I would really encourage you to look at ACM Women student chapters. You will find that information on the ACM Women website as well. They have like chapters in a box kind of starter kits available for you. They'll tell you exactly how to form a chapter. They'll give you support on various of your events. For example, maybe you want to start an event and you're looking for speakers. We'll be more than happy to provide you some recommendations. And we also hold ACM Women student chapter celebration events where you can have a more like a conference-like event, and ACM Women also provides partial financial support for that as well. So please do check out ACM Women student chapters, and if you have any further questions, you're very welcome to reach out to me. Kathleen, coming back to you, because I know this is also something that a few of our participants showed interest in knowing. OwnTrail is a women-led startup. Rebecca, of course, has been the force of nature behind this. And we all know a women-led startup is not the easiest adventure to embark on. So how has the journey been so far? It's 3 years.
Yes. Yes. Women-led startups, I think recently there was some reporting around less than 2% of all VC funds in 2022 went to women-led startups, and that was actually down from 2021. So that's not great. That being said, Rebecca and Katie, our other co-founder, they started OwnTrail in February of 2020. So immediately went into the pandemic as well, which made it an interesting time to try to get funding for a startup. But that being said, we have raised 1.5 million, I think, or maybe a little bit more in pre-seed funding. And over the course of that period, it was kind of interesting. Rebecca actually started another community called Authentic, which she found as she was pitching and trying to raise funds from these VCs that OwnTrail didn't really fit into the boxes of startups like fintech or healthcare or this and that. And so she created this community called Authentic, which is founders of more value-driven, like human-centered technology. We are currently in the Techstars Anywhere Accelerator, which goes through April. So that's pretty exciting. And we got some more funding through that. You know, a lot of programming that's really valuable as well. So we're currently at a team of 8 employees and hoping to, when we start funding for our seed round, grow the engineering team and the rest of the team. So we're doing good. We're doing pretty good and excited to grow more.
Thank you for sharing that. I really wanted to give this community a shout out as one of the success stories. We hear a lot of horror stories. We need some relief as well that, okay, some people, they're surviving, they're doing okay. Let's support them more. And on the same note, Nidhi, I know you shared that currently you are actually personally supporting the initiative financially, especially. So what are some of the plans to move it forward and make this more financially stable, financially self-sufficient, I should say?
Yeah, so if you think of being a woman founder as hard in terms of raising funds, try raising funds for a nonprofit. That's like, 1,000 times harder. So one of my goals this year is to make SheTO a self-sustaining organization. So my goal this year is to at least begin by establishing partnerships with corporations. Salesforce is actually one of our early partners, so I'm super excited about that. This economy obviously is not the best for these conversations, but I never thought I would be a founder, but here I am. I didn't think I would be able to raise money, but here I am. So I'm going to plow through it. So the goal this year is to both raise funds to sustain the growth and invest more in the growth of SheTO. And our approach this year is to monetize some of the programming that we do without taking away value for our community members. So that's the accelerator program and the workshops. And also the third aspect is to just have partnerships with companies like Salesforce.
Fantastic. And you said economy is not the best time. That's so true. It's a tough economy to be in, especially with the news that we hear every other day about massive layoffs, be it a big company or small. And that was actually reflected in a few questions that our audience members asked as well. Rose, if I may. So we hear all this news about layoffs, and maybe tech is no longer the blue-eyed child of the job industry. People are nervous. There's certain nervousness and uncertainty around the tech careers today. What is your read on the situation? What will be your advice?
So I think, hold on, let me make sure that, yeah. So I think I understand, and a lot of tech companies are going through a lot of reduction in workforce, but also trying to reduce operation costs. But I think this is also an opportunity. Now, one of the things that for me, I know that it allows me to just be more creative and look at where we can make impact. And I think this is an opportunity rather than just trying to look at it as something that's really scary. But at the same time, I've reached out to a lot of folks that I've known in the tech industry, a lot of companies that I've worked for in the past, and the network is really important. So they've been reaching out. And let me just say that there's a lot of opportunities right now think about what's happened in the last couple of years with COVID. I mean, healthcare, education, justice reforms, those are all areas where they really, really need help, and they need technical professionals. And so there are so many problems and issues in these smaller communities, and even in hospitals and nurses and doctors, and really just trying to be ahead of the game this time, because it's not as if the next pandemic will happen, it's just a matter of when. And even we saw a whole entire education system from grade school, K-12, to a lot of colleges and universities that were not technically prepared to handle going virtual, right? And so there's all these other areas where there's so much need for experienced professionals like yourself to really come in and say, hey, there's a problem that I want to help solve. And so think about that. I know for a fact the US federal government and even state and municipality governments are really need to digitize. They're going through some type of transformation. And I have been, I'm part of this kind of collaboration group of civic tech organizations here in DC, but across the country, that are really saying, hey, let's take this opportunity to dive into a lot of this tech skills and a lot of people that are laid off, and let's try to, leverage that with a lot of the improvements that the government really needs help in, and where, they're trying to provide products and services that helps citizens that are living here, and many people that are living in the United States. So don't think that there is a crisis out there. The tech industry goes through this. A lot of different industries go through this every so often, but I think everybody's revamping and they're thinking about what's the next innovation. And I would also tell you that as a co-founder, it really just helped me kind of center myself and focus on what I wanted to do to make impact in this world and to leave this world a better place than I'm really just thinking about you all and how, when I retire, I expect things to be very digital when and have access to everything from my watch, my phone, wherever. So we're not there yet. And so this is an opportunity. I always tell people that, when you see that there is a lot of downsizing and a lot of things that are moving in the world, there's also an opportunity. You can start your own. There's a lot of, I think a lot of companies are also opting to just the gig economy right now is going to be really, really pushing. And so start your own. You have an invention or something that you're working on. Now is the time, right? There's a lot of money right now, particularly from the federal government, as well as a lot of just investors that are looking for the next big thing. But I think if you really want to ground yourself in what's happening, I think looking at how we can improve on the next time there's something major happening, I think we can put all of our heads together and really come up with some amazing solutions for just right in our backyard.
Thank you so much for this really encouraging message, Rose. I know I need to hear that. A lot of our audience members do as well. Before I ask my final and my favorite question to all my panelists, a request to our audience members here. I'm sending a link to a very brief feedback form. It will not take more than 2 minutes. I know because I wrote it. And I go through each and every feedback that is submitted, and that helps me pivot the future conversations. So please, any feedback on the current discussion, any ideas for future discussions, please do take those 2 minutes and fill out that feedback form. And coming back to our panelists, I love this question because it's whimsical. It allows you to look back in time, but it also allows you to look forward in time and see what changes could have been done. What career advice would you give to your younger self today? And we can start with Rose.
I think I would let myself know that just lead with life. You're going to have opportunities. You want to plan, and sometimes the plan doesn't always go to your favor, or and you get kind of discombobulated sometimes. But my life events have led me to amazing opportunities. I've had such an amazing time in tech, and it really just pushes me and energizes me even further. So lead with life.
Lead with life. How beautiful is that? Farah?
Yeah, I love that. And I think it was a good reminder that it's been such a fun career. There's so much that you can do in tech. I think I would tell my younger self that, sometimes we can do a lot more together than what we can do alone. And so don't be afraid to seek out help, let people know that you're struggling, or that you just want, support, or you want to understand. Find communities. It doesn't always have to be in the workplace, but it can be things that you enjoy, and that can lead to other opportunities. The more people you get to know, I think also puts you more at ease. Is like, everybody's similar and everybody has their struggles and everybody has their own journey, and it's like, there's nothing, you have your unique journey, but somebody else may have something else that they're struggling with. And so that perspective really helps you, and I think, just to kind of touch on what you said in your previous question, it's a difficult time for a lot of people, and I just want to offer that same encouragement and support, right? It feels like doom and gloom and everything's falling apart, but just take perspective, right? It's a global macroeconomic thing that's happening. It's not just in tech, and it's happening across lots and lots of areas. There's, natural disasters happening in countries, other countries have all kinds of like political upheaval. And so actually people from tech are probably in the best position. They have really great employable skills. They should be snatched up really quickly, compared to some of these other things. So that perspective really helps. So just make sure that, you continue learning. Another thing to my younger self is that having that curiosity and being constantly learning is something that's very important.
Thank you. Having a wider perspective and then constantly learning. Thank you for sharing that. Nidhi?
So plus one to what Farah said, and I'll keep it short. Two things. One is find your tribe and use it. Oftentimes we get motivated and we find the tribe but never use it. So a community is always, as you will get back as much as you give. So make sure you use it. Second, just be kind to yourself. We're too hard on ourselves. We want to be perfect. We want to be the perfect workers. We want to have everything in life. And things around us are shitty and it's our fault because we got laid off. That's not the case. Just be kind to yourself. This too shall pass and you will thrive coming out of this recession.
This too shall pass. Thank you for stating that. Kathleen.
Yes, I am in an interesting position now where I am watching my daughter, who is almost 20. She is in engineering school right now, electrical and computer engineering. So she's kind of following a similar path. And so I kind of watch the way she's doing things and think about the way I do things. And one thing that she is doing that I didn't do in university is she has found her tribe and is not just joining communities, but getting into leadership positions in those communities, which I think that would be an advice I would give myself to, especially in early career too. Sometimes I in my early career just kind of fell into certain leadership roles or leading projects, but I think I would encourage myself to seek it out more actively as a student and in early career too. So yeah, it's really a great experience to see her doing her. She's doing a great job.
It's a circle of life, huh? The next generation is already taking reins. Thank you so much, Kathleen, Nidhi, Farah, Rose, for spending time with us, sharing honest and open feedback. Thank you so much to our audience members who have been here for the last hour, well, a little over than the last hour. So thank you again. Please do share your feedback with us, and we will be back with another conversation in like 6 to 8 weeks. All right. Thank you again, everyone. Have a good rest of your day.
Thank you. Thank you, Bushra.
Thanks, Bushra. Bye.